Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Final Whistle here on the Bama Standard Network. Hit that like, subscribe button as you join us and get in the comment section. Most importantly, joke around and get some serious questions and answers for later on in the show. But let me announce this amazing cast. Our lead recruiting analyst, Final Whistle Dan, is here. How are you, sir?
Always good. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Happy Tuesday. And ladies and gentlemen, the man who looks like he's at the golf course or the quad, one of them, the one and only Lucian Graves. Lou, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm just happy to be back with the Avengers talking about Alabama football. Roll daggum Tide, y'all.
Roll daggum Tide. And ladies and gentlemen, the man in the NASCAR t-shirt, I believe. Steve Lewis Jr. This guy does pit crew for this guy, so he's know how to change the bolts out. If you're not first, you're last. The one and only Ty Hayes, Mr. Roundtable Sports. How are you?
Hey, first and foremost, shout out to Lynn Shaneyfelt. That is SGI, is his company. Former Alabama football player as well, very involved with the booster scene. He sent me this shirt because, like I said, he is the CEO of SGI, and they sponsored this driver, and they're sponsoring a NASCAR this year. So you love to see the Bama family doing big things.
Nice. A little bit of shake and bake. And ladies and gentlemen, speaking of shake and bake, the one and only Chris James. How are you? Number 32.
Hey, number 32 in your jersey, number 1 in your heart, baby. I'm good, it's nice. We were at the Avengers, man. I got the Enforcer Lou up top. I got Big Bro Dan. I got I like to call him Cash Money Petty.
Strip Petty.
And the Godfather Ty. And Sticky Finger Matt.
No.
Dubiously.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the man of the strip, the legend, Daniel Petty, double agent himself. How are you, sir?
I'm good, but look, guys, this whole legend of the strip, that was 25 years ago. So whoever is watching this show and then keeps writing my name and saying for a good time, I can't keep these calls. Stop. I get it. That was years ago. Quit that. Keep that out of the bathrooms.
Just make sure well, I'm not going to go there. Okay. So, we can go off the rails on this show here on the Final Whistle, so we're going to keep it PG.
Rumor has it Van Edwards has been going to the strip and writing my name in bathroom stalls.
For a good time, call Petty.
And leading it straight to a massage parlor at Auburn.
Oh, way to spin it back. I like that.
I've heard it's also on the SIP campus too, Petty. I wonder why that is.
You don't see us in the same spot. I'm just saying.
You never see Lane Kiffin and Dane Petty in the same place. Never.
Freshwater started on the strip.
That's why we call him a double agent. But listen, if you want to be like, Kalen DeBoer, Lane Kiffin, and have these really nice yards with beautiful stone, whether it's, some sandstone, limestone, whatever you want to have your yard looking amazing so you can have all these top recruits and their families come over to your house, go to realrockstone.com. Patty, tell us more about this amazing stone company.
Hey, you nailed it, Matt. If you're building that dream home, you want to have a bomb house like Coach DeBoer, have that beautiful natural stone. I'm assuming he's got it. I'm sure he's got a bomb house. Look, no place to go other than Lamstone Company, realrockstone.com, located in Aniana, Alabama, one of the oldest, most trusted sources in the state. If you tell them we sent you using the promo code, the Bama Standard or the Final Whistle, you'll get 10% off your purchase of stone today. So look, give them a call after the show, of course, but don't wait, man. Get that stone on that house today. Be like a big baller like our man Van.
Balling like Dan. Dan, you're on mute.
Petty, I'm putting you in charge of getting us some props. You know, you got to get us some props.
Hey, I heard if you get the deal now, you get an extra 30% off.
You might. We never know. You might get your first 2 stones for free. You never know how that goes. So, guys, we had an amazing show last week. We had a lot happen over the weekend, and let's dive right into it, guys. I mean, recruiting. I think Alabama hosted their first big official weekend this past weekend, and it was some big news and excitement from players that took their official visits this past weekend. And so we're gonna let Dan lead the show, but let's talk about Dan. We talk about the recruiting visit, just recap, and we'll go around the horn talking about guys that Alabama needs to close, and then Dan, you can close us out on this week's recruiting weekend as well.
Okay. Yeah, Alabama had their first official visit weekend this past weekend. It was a huge weekend. You know, we had several big names on campus. You had offensive lineman Malachi Lee, Deacon Schmidt, Bryson Cooley. You had several defensive line prospects on campus. You had Titan Davis, Nolan Wilson, J.J. Finch. You had Wolf Target, K.J. Ford. You know, I think Bama came away doing an outstanding job, you know, and one big name they had on campus I forgot to mention is Jet Washington. You know, he's probably everybody's favorite recruit right now. 6'4" safety out of Bishop Gorman. It was huge getting him back. You know, Alabama did a tremendous job, you know, with him and his family. You know, it's going to be a tough, you know, Bama-Oregon battle. It's going to be to the end, you know, so you know, that's where we are with him. But getting him back on campus was the most important thing. Now, a couple of prospects I want to talk about that we made serious moves with. One being Malachi Lee, 6'7", 310-pound offensive tackle out of Honolulu, Hawaii. You know, Alabama really hit it out of the park with him, you know, with a little help, you know, of some familiar people. You know, we had Tua Tagovailoa's father, Galu, and mother Diane. You know, they pitched in. You know, they came on campus, helped out. You know, made them feel comfortable. You know, his player host, where I'm understanding, William Sanders, did a tremendous job. You know, they bonded really well. So I think Alabama put themselves, you know, in the driver's seat here. You know, he was considered. We were considered behind other teams such as Georgia, Michigan, Texas. You know, he was originally offered by Coach Saban and his staff, you know, as a middle schooler. But this staff got in on him a little later than the others. So, you know, for them to be able to get him in and get to this point to where they are, you know, he brought his family, you know, his mom, dad, and his siblings. And they all loved it, and they were very comfortable in Tuscaloosa. So I think Alabama's put themselves in prime position with him. Another one, Titan Davis. You know, I've always talked about how I like where Alabama sits with him, 6'4", 260-plus pound defensive lineman out of St. Louis. I think Alabama was the leader and, you know, going into the visit. So, you know, they've only cemented themselves further. You know, you still got other schools, you know, they're battling. You got Penn State, USC, Michigan, who he's taking all of his visits to, it seems like now. What I say, it'll come down between Bama and Michigan, you know, but I like where Bama sits with him. Another guy, defensive lineman, 6'4", 250-plus pound, defensive lineman out of Picayune, Mississippi. That's Nolan Wilson. You know, he's a big target for Alabama. Actually, Alabama was the first offer. Alabama really hit it out of the park with him and his family. Had his family on campus, and his family's on board with him leaving the state. You know how it is with Mississippi kids. You know, there's going to be I think it's going to be a Bama Ole Miss battle. You know, and Bama has solidified themselves at the front. He even came out and said that, you know, Alabama is the leader. So we'll have to take him at his word for that. Another guy I think we did really well with is a Wolf target, Kevin Ford, 6'3", 240 plus pound edge out of Duncanville. You know, former teammate Keelan Russell. You know, we got him on campus, and we really hit it off with him. So, with depending on how this week goes, I expect the Wolf board to really shape up after this week. So we'll see where guys stand in the pecking order. But another intriguing visitor that we had on campus, it was an official visit. It was just an unofficial visit. It was quarterback Jet Tamala. You know, he's a guy I talked about, Iowa State commit. You know, Bama got him on campus. You know, they gave him their pitch, and, you know, he's going to be taking his visit to Iowa State this week, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how things go. But another visitor we'll talk about later on that's coming in this week is another quarterback, Matt Ponatoski, out of Moeller High School in Cincinnati. So I expect the next week we'll know who our quarterback target in this class is going to be. So, you know, all in all, a big weekend. You know, I'll let you guys talk about it, and we'll get into the guys we have coming in this week.
I like that recap from our lead recruiting analyst, Mr. Dan James. Lou, we'll kick it off with you first. Out of some of the names, or, you know, who are you excited to hear about regarding Alabama, and who do you think they need to close?
I would say I'm looking forward to some of the recruits that are going to be here in this week's visit. Not saying so. I'm going to say give me Jared Edwards. I think I'm looking forward to getting him on campus. I think Alabama has a real good shot with him. And then give me another defensive guy, Xavier Griffin. You know, he decommitted. I'm not sure where we stand with him, but the fact that he's coming to Alabama is all good signs. And I love the way our coach is recruiting that linebacker position. And especially with what we did with Jahad Campbell, I think we stand in good lines with anybody.
Ty, what are you know, I'm going to take a different approach with you. You know, kind of what are you hearing? Just from, you know, there's a couple of Duncanville guys out there, KJ Ford from, you know, around your neck of the woods. You know, you're out there with Texas and Oklahoma and all that stuff. Just kind of what are you hearing in regards to the recruiting trail with Alabama? And, you know, do you think they can make some leaps and bounds in the next couple of weeks with some big-time commits?
Well, I'm not hearing anything, and that's not to say that nothing's happening. That's just that I've been so out of the loop, right? For those of you that don't know, started at that law firm, and not only do I do paralegal work, but now I'm a mediation coordinator for a judge who rents a space out the law firm. So I have multiple different jobs now. So I'm not hearing anything, but I'm going to give you my opinion. First, on Malachi Lee, because Dan, you touched on this, and this is intriguing to me. It's one thing to have alums come back and help sell your program, but to me, it's even more impactful when you look and you have the Tagovailoas there, Galu there, right? This is a family that moved from Hawaii. And listen, I've never been to Hawaii, but I can tell you this. If I lived in Hawaii, I'm not leaving. If my kid wants to go to wherever university, I'm going to send him with a nice lunch. I'm going to send him with his suitcases and say, have fun. I'll be right here. The family moved. And the family then comes back because, listen, I don't want to, you know, Samoan culture, the family is so big. It's such a key part to that culture. It's one of one of the many beautiful things about that culture, right? The Hispanic culture is very similar, where family is so key. And so you have the family of a legendary Alabama player helping show the family around. To me, that was big, guys. One, because what it means Alabama meant to the Tongue of Iloas, but two, Saban's not here. So you don't even have the guy that recruited Tua. That staff is gone. But the university meant that much to the family that they're here helping show someone around. Like, if that doesn't fire you up whenever you're thinking about recruiting, you're looking at the wrong things. Relationships are still king in recruiting. Dan, you and I talked with Smoke to a young man that Nebraska fans seem to be very excited about, and he said, listen, NIL is nice, but relationships are king. We've heard this time and time again from these players, the impact of a key relationship. And so to me, that spoke volumes. Lushawn, you talked about Xavier Griffin. Now, I don't know where his recruitment stands with Alabama. I do know that Alabama seems to be in it, but I do know what looks good is when an Alabama commit is visiting Auburn and he's commenting on their Instagram Live elephants.
I saw that.
Who is this?
Xavier Griffin.
Oh, nice.
So take that with what you will. I think there's a lot of work to be done because he's got great universities after him with great recruiters. This is not going to be a gimme. But I think if you're Alabama, you have great recruiters. You've got a great environment. You've got a great outlook. You have everything every other university has. I don't care if Saban's there or not. The staff has proven they can go toe-to-toe with the best. And if you grew up an Alabama fan, I love that. I also think that whenever you look at like the guys from Texas, let's start with Feaster, right? He was a guy that's very familiar with Key Russ, 7-on-7 teammates. That has to fire him up to come into the room, to see Jamarcus Shepard, to see Ryan Williams being so big and Key Russ so big when he's in a visit. I put myself in these recruit shoes and go ahead and laugh as you will, thinking about me playing for Alabama. Don't get me wrong. I get a chuckle out of it myself. But I sit there and think, man, a guy who is a true, and we throw this out a lot, but it fits, a true generational talent in Ryan Williams showing me that kind of love, placing the crown on my head. You have that picture. He's placing the – if that doesn't let you know, oh, they think I could be an asset here, where the guy thinks that he's putting the crown on my head. My quarterback, who I played 7-on-7 with, he's here. And then you have the kid from Duncanville, very familiar with Key Russ. I would love to get this win in Duncanville to keep that pipeline active because, gentlemen, the reality of the situation is you don't want Texas establishing that pipeline with no contest, right? Texas recruits very well. They recruit excellent under this Sarkisian staff. It's one of the things that I've been very impressed with is that they're not just getting big wins, they're getting the right wins. And we're seeing it. You don't want them to be able to put the flag in Duncanville. I promise you, that's not the high school you want it at. And I'm also surprised Oregon hasn't had a bit more success planting that flag. For those that don't know, the head coach's son works for Oregon. He's a guy who was one of the youngest assistant coaches ever to win an NFL ring with the Rams. This guy's got a resume that's unbelievable. If he ever becomes available, Alabama, give him a call. So I think if you look at where Alabama is recruiting, and I'm sorry I took so long at the time, you have to be encouraged. They came off of a great year last year. This staff has proven to be great relationship builders, great recruiters, and you see the family aspect of Alabama that to me just really sells the vision that this staff is putting out there.
Petty, I'm going to jump to you real quick. Just give me your thoughts. Who Bama needs to close, maybe one player, because I got a different question for Chris, Dan, and kind of the panel regarding certain position groups. So, Petty.
I want one of the edges. I think, all the edges you can get. Give me one of those. Give me Sincere.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Dan was talking about the Mississippi kid Nolan Wilson, and I don't think there's much confidence in the Ole Miss camp. I think the kid's like Dan said. I think he's pretty Bama heavy, but every time I say that, some crazy shit happens. So
Yeah, you said that
I'm
last
sorry,
year.
I jinxed the hell out of that one again. But no, I think you're right. I think he is very much because Bama was in it from the get go. I think that's going to matter with this. And hell, Bama does so good recruiting defensive linemen at that state. But yeah, all the defensive linemen and edges, Sincere, Nolan, the Ford kid, bring them all.
Bring
all
them
of
out.
them.
Now, appreciate that, Patty. Now, Chris, Dan, Lou, Patty, Ty. Chris, y'all had a great conversation about this position group over the weekend. And can y'all talk about the wide receivers? Ty kind of mentioned Feaster. Kenny Darby, is that the name of the receiver coming out of the LSU commit who's gonna, I think Alabama had a big impression. Could you talk about the player comps that you have for these receivers, and which two out of these receivers do you think we need to get? Don't forget, Sedarian Morgan down at Benjamin Russell. Just want to get your thoughts on this receiving class because listen, before I give it to you, Jeremy Bernard will be gone next year. Ryan Williams will be gone the year after that. Horton to be gone. So we have a lot of holes to fill in the receiving room. So I just want to get your thoughts, Chris, your player comps, and how excited you are about the potential guys who we have to get in this class.
Man, I was watching, just had a little time on my hand this past weekend, and I was talking to Lou and the fellas, and you guys, and Lou and I, we've been talking about this for pretty much a good bit of last week. And when I tell you that Booby Feaster, man, we got to get this kid in Crimson. He is, to me, I think he's the next Jamar Chase. He's that electrifying. And the thing what impresses me the most is how physical he is on the perimeter as a blocker. Like that's important, in today's game, having receivers big enough that can create space, help in the run game, that can block on screens. Because how many times we've seen screens get blown up because the receiver missed a block, And the thing about it, he's hard to bring down, man. He's tough after the catch. He's fast. He runs great routes, and he just reminds me of Jamar Chase. Then you have Sedarian Morgan, who my player comp is T. Higgins. I think that he's very polished and very smooth to be 6'5". A lot of 6'5" taller receivers, they don't have quite the bend or the lucid, but he has it. And he's smooth, man. He's a glider, and he just plays with confidence. High points the ball, runs good routes, great hands. And then Kenny Darby, Lou said he reminds him of Ruggs. Well, my comparison, Malik Neighbors, when he was coming out of Mississippi. I think that that Darby is going to be a future. I think all three of those guys are going to be future studs, and I want at least two of them in Crimson. Definitely Feaster, and he's my as good as Morgan is. I mean, as good as Sedarian Morgan is. I like Feaster a little bit more because we have a Morgan type already in Meadows, a taller target. But I mean, to have two guys like that'll be a cheat code. But I think we need that big, that physical guy. Not to say that Morgan isn't, but it's like Feaster just has another level of physicality to him. And I think that will complement what we have in Ryan Williams and Brooks and those other guys. I think that he would complement them well. But if we can somehow get at least two of the four of those three guys and Tristan Keys, man, we cooking with some hot grease, man. So I'm just excited about the position and the opportunity that we have with these guys that's on the table to go along with already the outstanding cornerback class that we have. So it's just gonna make practice that much better, and it's gonna make practice harder than games. game's gonna be easy, fun time for these guys, man, because there's gonna be so much talent in competition. It's gonna be something to watch, man. Just keep an eye out for who we land out of those guys, because I would be happy with any two.
Do y'all think, and this is Matt, you could probably answer this better, that somewhere in this planet that when Dave Radar saw Kenny Darby on the recruiting list, he started trying to design more dive plays just for him immediately on a napkin? Oh shit, another Kenny Darby. I can run at least 5,000 more dive plays with that poor bastard.
Darby right, Darby
left. Up the middle, Darby 2-hole, Darby 3-hole, Darby 1. God bless America, Dave Radar. There's more.
Radar, I love that.
Radar had the Tecmo Bowl playbook and stuck to it.
That's a really good reference. Petty is in rare form tonight. I love it. Dan, I'm gonna leave it up to you. And Ty, you can go to our next, not Ty, Lou, I'm sorry, you can shift to our next topic. We mentioned recruits we want to close, but recruits on demand. And I think this kind of goes into, guys that you feel like we need to get that I think can help us. I really like the Braden Rouse kid out of Georgia. Versatile linebacker, can do it all, very athletic. But you mentioned safety, Jet Washington. I would love to see Alabama get one of those guys, those top safeties, especially with Caden Hall committing to Florida earlier today. So, Dan, the floor is yours. I'll let you kick it off on this topic.
Yeah, actually, speaking of Caden Hall, who did commit to Florida earlier today, is mentioned that he wanted to play safety. Bama was recruiting him as a linebacker. They liked him as a linebacker. He was one of Bama's top linebacker targets. So he did announce his commitment to Florida. Florida did a good job of locking him up before he came on the Alabama visit. I think he's one of the guys that Alabama will continue to try to recruit and to try to get him to visit. So we'll see how the season goes for Florida. That could be instrumental if he decides to open things back up. But we were talking about guys that I think we need to hit on. Definitely this year is a year you want to hit in state. Guys like Cedarian Morgan, Xavier Crowell. Those are two I think, you really want to hit on. We definitely need to address the defensive line some. We'll be losing a few guys. So the Nolan Wilson, the Titan Davis, those two guys are at the top of our board as far as defensive linemen. So you definitely want to be able to hit on your top targets. As far as wide receivers go, Bama's only going to take 2 receivers. So, you still got, guys like Tristan Keys that's going to be visiting. We got a new offer yesterday, Owen Cabell, receiver out of Nashville. So, you got Samarian Wingo and Brian Williams, receivers out of Florida, 3-star and 4-star and 3-star respectively, that we got coming on visits later on. So Alabama is going to take 2 receivers, and I think we're beyond the days of recruiting 4 or 5 receivers in one class because of the transfer portal now, and receiver is not essentially a developmental position. So you want to kind of use your transfer portal to get guys that can make immediate impact. So I don't think Alabama will be signing big wide receiver classes anymore going forward. But we still have to address the offensive tackle position. We'll be losing Proctor. So, Malachi Lee, I think he's definitely, he's Alabama's highest ranked target, at the offensive tackle position. And I think we definitely need to be able to lock him up because, we did a great job last year as far as offensive line, but I think we need more tackle bodies. So Malachi Lee is another one that comes to mind when you want to lock up a guy you want to lock up.
Dan, quick question regarding the official visit. When does Crowell and Morgan and all these guys, when do they take their official visit? Is it
I think Crowell is going to take his visit right before he announces. So, yeah. And Morgan, he was on campus at Georgia this past weekend. You know, Georgia. So was Crowell. So, those guys are both gonna be making their decision soon. I think it's around the 19th. I think, if I'm not mistaken, but. So they'll be taking their visit and the Bama, and then they'll be making a decision, which is exactly what Bama wants to happen.
I like that. Let's go, Chris. Who do you think Alabama's? I know you kind of talk about the receivers. Any recruits that come to mind that Alabama needs to be on demand for? You're mute.
Our sign language for them.
I don't care what it takes or how much money we got to spend, man. You go and get Jet Washington.
Yeah, Jet Washington.
Like, he's a dude, man. He's a unit. He's the first off the bus type. And like some guys, man, you kind of not overpay, but you come out the pocket a little more for. I know they say we don't believe in doing it like that, but you know, certain circumstances, man, something that you can work that he get more on the back end or so to speak. But Jet Washington is one that I think that, man, if we got in Crimson, man, I think we'll have a strong chance for the number one class with what we're expected to get. And if we add somebody like him, I think that'll put us up there with a chance to finish number one overall. Our rightful spots.
Patty, I know you said Xavier Griffin. Is you still sticking with Xavier Griffin? That's who Bama needs to get.
Yeah, I mean, you bring in, I mean, because the linebacker, man, already signing a good linebacking core, and that kid, and what you talk about him, Dan? He's about 100. I mean, it's looking pretty good, right?
Yeah, you know, we shall see. It can go a lot of ways. You know, you got Ohio State battling, Texas battling, but I gotta like where Alabama sits. You know, I really do. You know, plus relationships. You know, he's originally from the state of Alabama, so there's a lot of things working in Alabama's favor.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. He might have an amount. He might have a number. You know what I'm saying? So
that's the problem. But man,
right now, you know, you got to love where Alabama sits.
Do your job over there and take care of him, Dan. Grease those pockets, because we'll take all the 5-star linebackers.
Okay, well, we can solve this right now. I can tell you where to send any donation. Any donation be welcome. You can send it to Cash App, $DANJAMESIB.
Got it.
And then if you got Apple Pay, you can send it to 22966.
Oh man, y'all are crazy. Ty, I want to hear your thoughts. Any particular player that just sticks out to you? Like, okay, we need to get this guy's a dude. We need him on our team. Then I give it to Lou.
Yeah, you know, I think Jet Washington, hard to argue with that name, but I also really am interested in what Alabama's going to be able to do with Dry Edwards. Right? That's they play some ball up there, man. Let me tell you what. They play some crazy good football up there. But the name for me is Lee, offensive tackle. And that's going to be another tough one, guys. Like, you know, Petty, you're talking about Griffin. You're up against Ohio State. You're up against Texas. You're up against Georgia. I mean, you're up against the best recruiting teams in the nation. Lee's kind of the same one for an offensive lineman, right? Like, you look at the teams that are really in the running here, it's not going to be easy, man. It is not going to be easy. If Alabama gets that win, that's going to be big. So he's the guy for me in this class where I'm looking, and to Dan's point, you got to replace Proctor. I love what they did recruiting last year, but offensive line's a position where you need to get guys every year. Like you got to get the right guys every year. Truth is in here. That's a resident Texas fan. That's a fan that watches my channel. And it's just like I said earlier, right? And I know Bama fans, I'm sorry to say this, but one of the reasons why Texas came in the SEC and they're going to be successful I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, they're going to run the SEC. I don't know that when I look at the next 5 to 10 years of the SEC, I don't think there's any one team I can say is just going to run it. But there are a few teams where I'm saying, hey, they're going to be vying for that spot every single year. I think Texas is one of them because they're getting the right guys. You look at what they've done recruiting, they're getting the right guys. They had so many running backs go down, and Trey Wisner was out there looking like one of the best running backs, not only in the SEC, in the entirety of college. They're recruiting at such a high level. So getting wins over that staff, Ohio State, Georgia, just to be in the running with those staffs, it lets you know Nick Saban might not be here, but Alabama's still very much a player on the national stage and certainly in the SEC.
Lou, it's all you, sir.
Well, this guy that I'm saying Bama needs to close has to do with the fact that he's actually from Alabama and he's a defensive lineman. Me and Dan have talked in the deep depths about this young man, Emmanuel Rufin. This young man has a motor that just makes me smile when I watch his film. This dude, oh, guys, I'm telling you, Alabama lands him. Ty, he's my star of this class. He's going to be that guy. No one's talking about him right now, but come when it's his time, trust me, because he's got something I haven't seen in a defensive lineman in a very long time.
Bessemer boy, right up the street. So, guys, before we close it out, Dan, I know Alabama fans not used to looking at Alabama going after quarterbacks and they're seeing, top 10 quarterbacks. They're used to seeing quarterbacks being what? Number 2, number 3, top 5, quarterbacks in the class. Can you just, for the Alabama fans who are not familiar with, Tamala or Patowski, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. Can you talk, reassure these guys that, the fans that might be a little skeptical that these quarterbacks are the real deal and how Alabama approaches, especially under DeBoer, this staff, going after certain quarterbacks, what they're looking for?
Well, you mean the people that's complaining, you mean the one that took objection to Alabama flipping a SMU commit?
Yeah.
So trust these guys, man. They see them throw. Alabama, this staff here, they don't just put out offers to quarterbacks like that. They watch the guy. They do their due diligence with quarterbacks. They look at guys, they get them in, then they decide whether or not they want to push or not. But they like Matt Ponatoski. He was offered. That doesn't mean that we'll accept your commitment. He's gonna come in, he's gonna throw for the staff, they're gonna look at him and get eyes on him. Same thing with Derek Zammit. When we offered him, he came in, we talked, and we decided not to push at the time. So, if you start seeing a bunch of quarterback offers going out, then you start panicking. But this staff, they seem to know what they're doing when it comes to the quarterback position. So I'm going to trust, Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb and guys like Nick Sheridan, when it comes to quarterback evaluation. They got, they know what they're looking for. They done a great job. They had Michael Penix, so, you got to trust the staff. A lot of the top quarterbacks, in the NFL, a lot of them wasn't, the 4 or 5 star guys. So, you get guys in, it's all about being able to throw, you got a live arm, you look for certain things, which is above my pay grade when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. But, you got a live arm. There's a lot of things you like about a quarterback. You want to be able to build your team around. But a guy like Jet Tamala, big live arm, athletic, you got to love him. Ponatoski, big. He's a huge baseball guy. He's expected to go high in the draft. So they're looking for athletic guys and guys with live arms. I think both of these guys fit the bill.
All right. But guys, we'll shift to our next topic. But before we shift to our next topic, let's give a big shout out to Tidal Towel. If you go to wetwillsports.com, that's wetwillsports.com, go get you an amazing crimson and white Tidal towel that you can wave in Bryant-Denny as we're getting, I think we're 88 days to kickoff. So go to
he do some days when he had it.
Somebody hand Chris 1 second, wipe that drool off.
Yeah.
He needs a young priest and an old priest.
Go get you a crimson Tidal towel that we can, wipe drool up for Chris, or you can have in Bryant-Denny or in Doak Campbell as Alabama and Tallahassee takes on those Noles down there
bro.
in FSU.
Dan was drying off with here.
Y'all saving these jokes for Final Wilson later for sure. So let's go to our next topic, guys. Let's talk about Alabama football. Let's get back to this football season. We discussed it, so many position groups. Which position group do you think that needs to go to the next level for Alabama to have the success that we want, which is obviously SEC title, but mainly national title? And I'm going to start with Chris since he's got his hand up. Chris James, the floor is yours.
It's simple. Like how we cut our sacks in half last year, we need to cut them in half again this year. Whenever we have a dominant offensive line, that's when Alabama plays their best ball. Whenever our offensive line is a dominant unit. I think that if we could solidify the left guard and the right tackle spot, man, we're in for a dominant season, and it's very important because of a new quarterback. Not to say that Ty, isn't a veteran or whatnot, but he's the guy with the keys now, and we gotta protect him because something happens to him, then now you're looking at a true freshman. Not to say that Keelan Russell's not capable, but when you have a veteran like Ty, you want to keep him as healthy as possible because you're going to need him in those road games, those road games down in Auburn. You're going to need a wily veteran, an older guy like Ty. So O-line, we have to cut those sacks in half, man. And a lot of it, some of it wasn't necessarily on the O-line. It was kind of Jalen Milroe's fault. Not his fault, but by his style, by him being a runner. Also, so we kind of ran our way into some sacks. But we cut that sack total in half, man. If we can do that and dominate again on the ground, man. We haven't dominated on the ground since but Brian Robinson may have been the last back to really, not necessarily back, but the last time we really had an offensive line in the back that pretty much imposed their will on the game was Brian Robinson. It's time to get back to that. So I'd say the offensive line as a whole.
Patty, which position group?
Man, I was going to play off what other people said because there's two that at the top of my tongue. Look, quarterbacks.
Pause.
Yeah. Look, Texas fans, we talked about this last night. They always said that to this day they utter in the state of Texas if Colt McCoy wouldn't have got hurt. Well, let me tell you this. If Colt McCoy would have stayed healthy, it wouldn't have mattered shit because Bama's defense was still playing. Marcel Darius was still playing. You weren't scoring enough to beat that Alabama defensive line. It's the line. And someone said it both lines. That's the easy answer. If your defensive line play is elite, your team plays on a different level. Same with the offensive line. But there's another answer out there. I'm gonna give, but I'm not. I've broken. Man, they got on me the other night. They called me Chris because I went off on a tangent. Chris
CBS
last night, but
I was trying to take that caption off of me because it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I ran with it. I think it was last night, but no. again, so the McCoy debate's dead. It doesn't matter. He plays the whole game. He's not scoring on that defensive line. You've got a defensive line that can, if Overton, Keeley, Smith, those guys step up. Russo, I mean, it's going to be a game. That's the difference. But there's another. And if someone don't say it, I'll come back to it. But there's another one that you got to have to make your team just to be special.
Hey,
good.
And hey, Matt, to Kenny Fee's point, he said Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, I'm not talking about the last time we had a good back. I'm talking about the last time we had a running back like
offensive line
that
close their will, finish game.
Quarter teams are catching them instead of still hitting them. They're catching them. They don't want to hit them anymore. Jahmyr was a one cut, out the gate type of guy.
I like it. And Petty, to your point about Colt McCoy to all those Texas fans, I always like to say, who called the play for your quarterback to run a quarterback sneak? So, I mean, you got to take some accountability. He's not. Let's be real.
Texas, Alabama's quarterback put up Jay Barker 92 national title numbers and still beat you. Like, he threw for like 20 yards. So, like, you weren't scoring on that Bama D regardless of what you rolled out there.
Yeah.
So, no, that's this line, man. You got to dominate. Look at the teams the best teams in the SEC every year are the ones that have the best defensive and offensive lines.
Perfect. So, Ty, your take on the position group that needs to ascend for Alabama to win that natty.
First and foremost, Petty, I love that you're, and I put it in the chat, you are sparking the great debate. Right? Being in Texas, this is a debate. Actually, shout out to a YouTube channel, Texas Homer. If you are into breakdowns of games, whether you're a Texas fan or not, I cannot recommend his content enough. Some of the highest quality content on the entire platform. When Texas and Bama played, I think he and I did a 6-hour phone call breaking down every single player on both sides of the roster. And then he put out some 40-minute video that even Alabama fans, you look at it and they were commenting saying, wow, this is great stuff. I bring that up because the first time Homer and I met, we went to eat at a hamburger spot here in Denton, and we argued about that for like 20 minutes. And it was just so much fun. Love that guy.
On our show last night, Smoke said Texas fans still say that, and I'm like, oh, dude, like it's tattooed.
Listen, that's always going to be a debate, right? Like that's fanatical fan bases have debates like that, and that's the beauty of what we do, right? That's the beauty of college football is we can have that debate. It's a great one. But the position group to me that's got to step up, Petty, I'm with y'all. With y'all said. It's the trenches. Both sides. Lou, you've made this point so many times. You need sacks. You need that interior presence. And I thought Alabama was their run defense last year at the end of the year, I thought was getting a lot better. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Offensive line, though, that's got to continue getting better. They cut the sacks in half last year, which to me was awesome to see because of going from one side of the spectrum to the other in terms of offensive blocking schematics. I mean, you couldn't have gone farther on the line from being like a stone wall offensive line where it's just, hey, stand there and don't let them through, to, hey, we're going to put our guys out in space. We're going to pull our center. Like DeBoer and them pull their center at a rate that's just crazy to watch. And so another year in that system, now that Grubb is back, right? Grubb has offensive line coaching experience. I'm excited to see this offensive line, but it needs to continue getting better, especially that right tackle position. That's got to be better. And so I'm very excited for both sides of the trenches, but it's the trenches for me.
Got it. Lou, then Dan, close us out.
You know, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. I'm going to say I think the position group that needs to ascend the most, in my eyes, for Bama to win the Natty is going to be the tight end room. I think that in the last couple seasons, our tight end room has gotten less active. They haven't produced as much now, whether that is to quarterback play, scheme, or matchups, whatever the case may be. I feel that in Ryan Grubb's system that he truly tries to utilize multiple tight ends. And we have a lot of good bodies in this room. We have got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. We got a lot of big guys. We got a lot of guys that got good hands. We got some guys that can run some routes. So I'm looking for Alabama to highlight that tight end position, because if we have them also having to worry about a tight end with all the other weapons we got going on, because we're going to have a lot of weapons going on, it's just going to be that much easier. I mean, you guys not remember the national championship when O.J. Howard just all of a sudden was just wide open and just went ham? I mean, we can have that and more with some of the guys and their athletic ability we have. With the defense is going to be focused on our wide receivers like they're going to be focused, and these linebackers are going to be worried about our running backs running the ball down their freaking throats. No pause intended. And then we're going to have a tight end leaking out. That's going to be a problem, especially with a new quarterback. What's a new quarterback's best friend besides a good running back? A reliable tight end.
Boom. A reliable tight end. Dan, give us your take.
Quarterbacks do like tight ends.
Pause.
Sorry.
Definitely. The obvious answer is, I agree with Chris. The offensive line. The offensive line is going to determine how successful this Alabama football team is going to be this year. We got our offense coordinator. The guy we've been trying to get even under Saban. So in order for us to be able to do what we're capable of as an offense, is two things. We got to improve along the offensive line. They take that next step, not just in pass protection, but in being able to run block. We kind of taking a step back the last few years, missing assignments. These guys are going to be asked a whole lot more this year to be able to block out in space on screens and everything. So, being able to do that on a continuous basis and consistent basis, it's going to be vital in determining how far this Alabama football team is going to go. Another one is, definitely we got to improve. We got to take the next step as far as the quarterback position.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Being able to, take that next step, as far as being able to distribute the ball. I think we kind of lacked a little bit in that area last year, so being able to distribute the ball to our playmakers, and not just being, whether it's the running backs, handing off the ball, getting the ball out in space, hitting the seam routes, hitting the quick out routes, things like that. So, our passing concepts, we're improving that game. So I think those two things coexist as far as us being able to take the next step.
It's not just
wait. Now, everybody said two. I just said one.
Quarterback.
Time out. I only said one.
I'm the big brother.
Question.
Quarterbacks,
Hey.
not just step. It's just, but to be a championship team. Look, man, you got to have that room's got to play special.
Guys, for everybody that doesn't know on the panel, I have a question I want to pose to you guys that said the offensive and defensive lines need to improve. According to Pro Football Focus, we have the top offensive line and the number 2 defensive line going into this year.
On paper.
Now, I would say that might say a little bit of a different story, that they need to improve, that they need to more of put up and actually walk the walk. Because we got 3 of the top 10 offensive linemen in the country. That's not like we're not rebuilding an offensive line, fellas. Just like the defensive line, we got Tim Keenan. He's one of the top returning defensive linemen, as well as LT Overton. We are not rebuilding our defensive line. I think it's more to a point to could it be that those two lines need to actually do what they've been talking about doing the last couple years.
Yeah, and that's the deal. They got us in. But to your point, Lou, and look, man, I know it's a name that's kind of sketchy around here because where he played his college ball. But old Cole Kublik on his show, he's not even talking to Overton and Keenan. He's talking Smith and Jameer Latham being guys. And he said, look, man, say what you will. That guy blocks some dudes. He knows what defensive linemen look like. And he's really high on Smith and Latham taking the next step. So if those guys are animals and Overton and Keenan step up at all, that's why the defensive line, I think, is getting the love it is, and justifiably so.
And if I may hop in here, Petty, to your point, listen, I'm certainly not, because, Cole knows what he's talking about far better than I. But if you were telling me the names that I think are going to be like major jumpers, I think James Smith is known, right? I think he's going to have that. To me, it's Jeremiah Beeman and Jordan Renaud. Those are the two that I'm looking at. And I'm like, yo, if these two do what I think they're going to do, it's going to be great. But that's just proving Lou's point. Lou, I think you're right on the money. The only pushback I would offer isn't to anything you said, but on the offensive line, to me, it's a little bit less about the bodies you have and more about the acclimation to the new scheme. And it's another year in that. And so I'm just interested in seeing how they function with another year under their belt, acclimated to this scheme. That, to me, is where, like, if they're able to completely have that acclimation this year, the offensive line should be really, really, really good.
I can get down with that.
Hey, and I add you one more, Adrian Hill.
Well, again, it's not just you don't need 4. You need the great defensive lines have 8. You got 8 guys that are rolling in there.
Like the days when we had the craziest one was when we had Ashawn, Reed, Allen, Tomlinson,
Chapman,
and
D.
I never see, and they talk about that Georgia 21.
Yeah, Raekwon Davis,
but that line still isn't messing with that one. I mean, they had Carter. They had two, like Carter and what's the one name that went to Jacksonville?
Jalen Walker.
Yeah, they had Carter, Walker, and Big Boy, the no guard. But we had the numbers, man. Like we had like probably three levels of guys that could start. We were like literally a 3 deep.
Yeah, we need to get. I think we have a good possibility to get back to that, especially with how some of these guys are putting in work and how they've changed their bodies from last year to this year. That they're getting a little bit smaller, they're getting a little bit easier to move, and that's going to pay it forward coming into this year's defensive line fight, because the Kane Womack scheme, and I'm going to say this again, is not like a defense Alabama's ever run before. But look at the success we had last year, and we ain't have no sacks. Now add a whole bunch of sacks. Y'all remember when Alabama would lead the nation in defensive touchdowns?
Mm-hmm. 16.
Guess what? Those days are coming, and they're coming soon if Alabama can get that quarterback down in the backfield.
I agree. Listen, I'm going to say my 2 cents. I'm going to go with the inside linebackers. I want to see.
That's what I was going to say.
I want to see a little bit more killer. I feel like we kind of fell in off the past couple of years, being a little bit too passive. I need us to be more aggressive up the middle. I need to see some, hit in the dirt. So,
no John Jones.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yep.
can our middle linebackers stop helping the other team up? Like, that is just stupid. Like,
lay on them.
You're supposed to smack them and go back to the huddle. Not like, oh, I scored him down to the ground and then help him up. Like, here you go, bro. Like, no, man. Come on.
I know.
I want to see a middle attitude a little back in our middle linebacker. We lost Jahad Campbell. We're gonna need an attitude.
No,
I want somebody smacking their head every play, like
you
Jahad
need
was
Jared
after he just
Johnson,
mauled
Dallas
somebody.
Turner. You need
You go, yeah. You just go to one of these Birmingham high schools and you look for one of those guys that practice on the sideline smoking a Newport. And that's your guy.
You damn right. But somebody they need
I
to
want a
find me in the
linebacker
next
who
Reuben
you feed him
Foster.
Newports in halftime. I need someone to have a Newport guy for my linebackers.
Booker was
got-
that
if
guy
you- if
last
you
year.
did-
It was South Florida game. What was it? Yeah, because that's what they did, the alumni, and I was standing on the sideline right before halftime, and then Booker come over and ripped everybody's ass for the entire freaking until they went back on the field. Yeah, you got to have that dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love our offensive
but we
line.
need it in the
Replacing
linebacker.
him is not going to be easy.
I agree.
It wasn't easy when he stepped in. Remember when he was a freshman? He was replacing didn't we just lose who did we lose after Leatherwood? Evan Neal.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, listen, guys, let's go to the Q&A. Let's get to the chat for our next topic. Audience Q&A. I want to get you guys' thoughts.
Ooh, I like that Kenneth question.
Kenneth always comes with the heat.
What do you see about our
Oh,
corner?
come on, you got my bad, Lou. I'm so used to doing it, man. You've got this, brother.
Oh, Lou and I talked about this.
Kenneth, what do y'all see
This is good.
our cornerback rotation looking like, I guess, this year?
Yeah. Well, we already know Domani is CB1. I think he's CB1 in college football. That's just me. The other side is where it's going to get interesting. Because as good as Xavier Bryan is, but folks forget how good Cam Calhoun is. Cam Calhoun is going to push because, like I told Lou, I don't see nobody uprooting my guy, Day Jones, in that slot. He's just a veteran, man. He has it. He gets it. He's a veteran, and he's made that a home. I don't see nobody uprooting him. I think that corner, that competition is going to be a three-way between Xavier Brown, Cam Calhoun, and
DeJohn Lee.
Mustard.
Yeah. I see. Think about Chuck. I told him with Chuck McDonald. I think by him coming in late and missing spring and everything, I think that we pretty much sold him on being 26 because you got to be 3 years anyway removed before you can go to the league. So it's not a rush when you leave and go play somewhere else when you're about to start because next year could be his year. I think that guys like him and Ivan Taylor, I think they're going to be the 26 guys. They're going to be the next crop to replace the Saab, to replace the Money. I believe they're going to be those guys that's on the rise. So I think they're going to see a lot of first team reps in practice and camp and stuff. But when it comes down to it, there may be two guys that may enter red shirting or playing special teams. And 26, they'll have a bigger role because I mean we're just too loaded at the position, man. We a position of weakness going into last year has turned into a position of strength, not only in the SEC but the entire country. So, Money, I think he's a first round guy, and we all know Xavier, Dijon, and Calhoun are going to play on Sundays. So it's not too many times where you see a team with four corners in the rotation and that all four are bona fide Sunday guys, and that's what we have. And another good thing is under Saban, we didn't really rotate DBs too much like that. But if you notice last year, we rotated a lot of corners and a lot of safeties in the game. So I think that we're going to see a lot of rotation amongst that position. I think you may see at least 4, possibly 5. Like we said, if Chuck McDonald's is too good to keep off the field, it's going to be 5 guys.
5 guys with a bag of French fries. That's how that rotation is going to look. Next question. Appreciate that, Chris. Next question is for Sharpshooter Sports Talk. Who are you guys think is the most underrated player on the team? Now, this is a really, really good question. I'm gonna go around the horn and let you guys cook on this. I'm gonna let everybody go rapid fire on this. Ty, you want to pop it off?
I think Cam Dewberry could be up there because if he successfully replaces Tyler Booker, even if he's not Tyler Booker, but if he is serviceable right next to Parker and Caden Proctor, I mean, that's going to be huge for this Alabama offensive line. So Dewberry, I think, could be that guy, but I'm still not completely sold, guys, that Michael Carroll is not going to come in before the season and continue pushing. So for me, it's really whoever replaces Booker. That's going to be the most underrated person because they got to be a dude.
Lou?
Shoot. This is tough, man. Josh Cuevas.
Good one.
That's a good one.
I think that a lot of people, especially when we're talking about the passing game, we kind of get the whole new car syndrome. We got these new freshmen, and we're excited for what they can do. But we also forget that what a guy that did last year, what only built upon and got bigger and is ready to go into this season with that much more experience, especially coming from the system and the offensive coordinator that this system was made from. So, and I think, yeah, give me Josh Cuevas.
Patty?
Look, Ryan Williams is undisputed top 2 wide receiver in college football. Isaiah Horton's getting a lot of pub coming in from Miami as being a dude. And Jeremy Bernard, I think he has an NFL. I think he sets himself up really well.
That's a great one, Petty.
I think I said it last year and it didn't show because it just didn't get. And look, man, this is honestly not a knock. Man, everybody thinks things are supposed to work immediately. DeBoer gets here. You've got a talent like Milroe. You've got all this talent to work with. It's all just going to work. You bring in Jeremy Bernard. All this crap is just, but it doesn't, man. Players have got to learn systems. But you saw later in the year Bernard really starting to get some of the targets that can give Williams a break. Yeah, Bernard, man. I think he's a better the kid that's at the Bengals right now, whose name's escaping me, that was just wild, man, in the slot. Jermaine Burton. I said when he got here, I think he's a better Jermaine Burton, and it didn't show. I think it showed this year.
Dan?
I think it showed last year. Hot take.
Well, I do think it showed if you watched it and got to see. He's more physical. He's a more physical body than Burton. So I'm excited about him. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Richard Young. You know, he was kind of caught behind Justice Haynes, Jan Miller. So his value is kind of underappreciated. I think this year he's gonna break out in a big way. He started coming along really big toward the end of the year. I think he's in store for a big season this year, and he's gonna eventually be running back 1.
Love it.
Chris, let me go first before you go. I'm going Cole Adams. Chris, give us your take.
I got 2. Since y'all want to do that too, y'all.
We know you got more than one.
One defense.
Here we go.
Defensively, I'm going Bray Hubbard. I think he's a top 5 safety in the country. He's very underrated. And
How is he underrated?
Because people like everybody keeps talking about Caleb Downs, and we really didn't miss a beat last year.
He had better stats than Caleb Downs in shorter time.
Yeah, he got a better grade than he got graded better than Caleb Downs.
You know what I'm saying? Like Caleb Downs is a great generational safety. I think because his ability of how fast he's able to get to point A to point B downhill, make plays. But as far as coverage, I like Bray Hubbard better in coverage.
I like Bray Hubbard overall outside of punt return.
I like Bray Hubbard better in all facets of the game.
Bray Hubbard's a dog, and I think he's a top 3 SEC safety, top 5 overall safety in the country. All right, offensively, Rico Scott. Have y'all seen how this guy has been? This guy has been.
You mean Little T.O.?
He looks like a linebacker dude. Big T.O.
I love Rico.
Big T.O.
He
not
plays 2 inches bigger than he actually stands.
And he can throw a football clear over those mountains over there.
Not that Rico.
You want the Rico did it? Oh, never mind.
Whoa.
Did he?
Whoa.
The Rico that
We ain't talking about the lotion kick in Chicago here, fellas.
you ain't talking about the Rico Diddy got. Yeah.
Chris, what parties were you having at Rose Towers?
Huh?
What kind of parties were you having at Rose Towers?
Chris was having white parties before white parties were a thing.
Chris, I'm not take that.
Take that.
All right. That was a great question, sharpshooters. I got a question for Petty. Sydney Sweeney, Sabrina Carpenter, who you got?
Ooh, look, because I've got kids that watch Sabrina on that kid show, that kind of makes it. Although, man, good God, that Me Espresso video. Woo! Give me those Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney all day.
Those.
Sydney Sweeney all day. Right
Those.
Those.
What are
Those.
those? What are you referring?
What do you mean those, Petty?
Those. Well, I've ordered
Those.
The 2 bars.
What have
of
you
soap
ordered,
that have
Petty?
her bath water in it that you can get? Have
No,
y'all
the
seen
2
that?
bars of soap. Okay.
The bars of soap. Okay.
I got it.
Have y'all seen that?
No.
There's
No,
that-
I have not
there's that
noticed
soap
any
company-
soap.
There's that crazy ass soap company that's always like whiskey soap and tar and all this, and it's man, I guess it's on face. But Sydney Sweeney's like advertises for them, and they're selling like 5,000 bars of soap that have drops of her bath water in it. I've ordered a few.
That's not sanitary.
Petty's
That
ordered
sounds
like
a little
3
ditty.
I got a lifetime
That sounds a
supply.
little
I'll
ditty
order.
spec.
Who's the other one, Matt? Sidney Sweeney and who?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Chris gonna have to look her up.
Yeah, I don't even know who
Give
that
me
is.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Ooh, a curve. Ty Hayes. I just want to get Petty salt because when you mentioned Sydney Sweeney, he goes,
Oh man,
he
When
gets
you-
flustered a little bit.
yeah, I'm like, and Varsity Blues when Tweeter, I can't concentrate, bouncing in my face. That's Sydney. You talk about I'd lose all.
Give me Sabrina Carpenter. Just look them both up.
You just look her up.
Yeah.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina's a little. I'll say this though. I'm going way too far for way too much knowledge here, but her music's a little spicy, which gives you a little inkling that the girl might be a little.
She sings?
Yeah.
She opened for Tay Tay on that Tay Tay's big tour.
Who the hell is Tay Tay?
Come on,
Travis Kelce girlfriend.
Travis Kelsey's.
Oh, I know who that one is. Taylor Swift. That you talking about, right?
Come on now.
See,
Uh,
I guess I'm the
wasn't a house
old
of
man.
Swifties.
Sorry, I'm not up to date in the teenage wonder,
I'm
whatever
sorry.
the hell's going on in the teeny bopper years.
Well, I am Lou. So
I'm sorry.
there you are.
And I've never really been into girl bands either, bro. No offense. No offense to anybody that is. Not my thing.
Well, listen, guys, we're gonna end on that. Oh no, we got another question. One more? Or are we done? How they gonna keep the RB room happy is the question. I know how they can do it. Just
Winning.
run the
Win.
ball.
Run the ball. That's it. 3 words, Matt. You said it. That's it. That's how you keep them happy.
Run the ball.
Knappy says, I'm not much for blinds. Oh, hold on now. What?
Well, listen, guys. How can they reach you guys and what other shows? Again, tune into this show next Tuesday. But guys, how can they reach you, Daniel Petty? Dan, we're going to end with you, and you close us out as well.
The first thing you do, I don't care if you like blondes, you like brunettes, you like redheads, you like girls at the massage parlor. Get on their phone and go to the final whistle and hit that subscribe button. We need a few more of you guys so we can get monetized back on this channel. Guys, go to your mama's phone, your grandmama's phone. It don't cost them nothing. You don't even have to add the alert. But go and hit subscribe or tell your friend, tell your mama's friend, tell Chris Williams' friend, the one he has at Auburn, whoever, tell them hit that subscribe. Give us some love. Look, we're building over here. The numbers are growing. My man Lou is kicking ass behind the scenes right now, putting out clips all over the show. So look, man, the Avengers are firing it up. So give it right back. Hit that like and subscribe wherever you are in the world right now, and then grab your girlfriend's phone or whoever you went and picked up at the lot tonight. Grab her phone, and then find me at Petty_Daniel. I'm on Monday nights with Smoke Dixon, always causing some kind of controversy on the opening kick, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And then Tuesday nights, I'm on the Bama Standard. Boy, I've got tongue-tied, at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. And then I'm here with the greatest guys ever, man, on the final whistle, the Avengers. I'm done. I'll shut up now.
Monetize us that way Petty can get as much soap as he needs.
Yeah, I need that Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap. What is that? Hold on. I'm gonna have to look up the brand while y'all give y'all's.
It's Dr. Squatch.
Squatch. That's it. Ty's already looked it up and ordered 4 bars himself. He don't care if it's sanitary. That wasn't when you said that wasn't it wasn't like, oh, that's not sanitary. It's like, hey, that's not sanitary, buddy.
Lewis Tony Stark.
Chris, how can they find you, sir?
You can find me in the you can find me. You can find me on a football field near you, blowing a whistle, yelling, coaching up. But seriously, you can find me on Facebook at Chris K. James Sr. You can find me on Instagram at final_whistle_Chris. You can find me on X at Coach Chris James. You can find me here every Tuesday night with the greatest cast in America. The Avengers plus Dan.
Chris James, bitch.
That's hilarious. Ty, Mr. Roundtable Sports.
Yeah, you can find me here. You can find me Friday with the guys on the Bama Standard with Jonathan Lewis, Brinsky, Sharp, Coach Sean. Shout out to the guys. I would really love to hop on, Petty, with you and Smoke one night. That'd be a ton of fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And you can find me at your local cigar bar. Probably there, smoking up cigars.
Smoking up cigars. Lou?
Well, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever Elon's got going this week at RollLou241, Facebook and Instagram, Lucian Graves. Tuesday nights, right here on the final whistle, doing it with the Avengers. And, I'd like to give a shout out specifically to the Georgia Bulldogs. I think it's been more than a week since one of them's got pulled over. So round of applause for those guys down in Athens. They're doing a great job not speeding down there. So, but most importantly, roll daggum Tide, ladies and gentlemen.
Damn. Speaking of Georgia fans, how can they reach you, Dan? And all these Georgia fans just raving about getting Justice Fitzpatrick when Alabama wasn't even in his top 4 or 5 lists. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
hats off to them. I mean,
enjoy.
They got Minka's little brother, so I guess that's a win for them over Alabama. I guess
they got to get a win because they definitely ain't get it on the field. Ooh,
won't get it on the field.
They ain't gonna get it recruiting either.
Chris doing the finger test, y'all. Look at him.
Yeah.
But listen, you catch me on. I'm sorry, X. I can't come. Come back to me.
Yeah, ain't nobody left.
It's you. It's all you, Dan.
You're the last one,
You're
man.
the last one.
All right, you catch me on X. Final whistle day.
Hey, Dan, how many follows you up to now? It's been a year.
I probably added about 3 more. Chris, I just put it on your head.
That's what I feel.
All right, it's time to behave now. But anyway, all right, serious face. You catch me on X at Final Whistle Dan. Catch me on Instagram, Dan James 4th. Catch me here every Tuesday night. Final Whistle with my Avengers plus Chris, little brother. You know, why you keep smelling your beard?
Final Whistle Dan.
Let's go out there so I can roast Chris. Let's just go out there. Let's get you in the green room. Me and you in the green room. Me and you.
Magical.
Make it happen, Lou.
He said Final Whistle Dad.
Well, listen,
I got it
guys,
for next
I'll
week.
end it. Listen, I know we got
productions.
Petty. Petty.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm hurting.
Well, listen, we're gonna end it on that. We're gonna end. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next Tuesday, same time, same channel. We talk about getting to the football season talk. You know, we like to end on those two words.
Roll.
R.
And we don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
Blitz, Bama.
And we still hate Hugh Freeze.